It started like any normal morning on Lorraine. The lights were warm, the audience cheerful, and Lorraine Kelly's signature smile lit up the studio. Sitting across from her was Ricky Gervais, relaxed, confident, sipping coffee as the cameras rolled. The conversation began lighthearted about his new comedy project, but within minutes the tone shifted. Lorraine, always polished and poised, asked, "Ricky, do you ever think your jokes might go too far in today's climate?" Ricky chuckled softly. "Too far for who? The people pretending to be offended?" The audience laughed, but Lorraine didn't. Her smile tightened. "You do realize words can hurt, right?" Ricky leaned forward slightly, eyes sharp. "Only if you think jokes are real." "They're not. They're reflections, and sometimes reflections are ugly." The air thickened. The crew sensed it. Something real was happening. No script, no filter, no safety net. Lorraine tried to steer the conversation back to safer ground, but Ricky wasn't done. His tone was calm, but each word carried purpose. The studio, once filled with light laughter, now buzzed with an electricity no one could control. Something was about to break. Lorraine adjusted her papers, trying to regain control. "But Ricky," she said, her tone firmer now, "you've mocked religion, politics, even identity. Don't you ever feel you're adding to the division?" Ricky smiled faintly. "Division existed long before jokes. Comedy just points at it." Her eyes narrowed slightly, a flash of irritation. "But don't you think some topics are best left alone?" Ricky didn't blink. "If we start deciding which subjects are safe, we stop telling the truth. I'd rather offend someone than lie to them." The audience let out a soft gasp. Lorraine's expression froze, caught between disbelief and irritation. "Truth?" she echoed. "Or just cruelty disguised as comedy?" Ricky's tone lowered, almost solemn. "Cruelty is pretending to be kind while hiding from the truth." For a moment, neither spoke. The silence between them was deafening. The crew looked tense. The control room whispered frantically in headsets, wondering whether to cut to commercial. But Lorraine didn't back down, and neither did Ricky. What began as a simple interview was morphing into a philosophical battlefield, and no one, not even the producers, knew how it would end. Lorraine leaned back, her smile gone. "So, you think everyone's just too sensitive?" Ricky nodded slowly. "No, I think people confuse discomfort with danger. A joke can sting, but it can also wake you up," the audience murmured, half in agreement, half in disapproval. Lorraine crossed her arms. "That's a nice excuse. But you're not the one being laughed at, are you?" That's when Ricky's expression changed. Serious, almost sad. "Lorraine, I've been laughed at my whole life. That's how I learned not to care. Comedy isn't about mocking people, and it's about showing we're all ridiculous sometimes." The crowd went silent. Even Lorraine hesitated, realizing she'd hit a nerve she hadn't expected. Ricky didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. Every word carried a quiet force, the kind that silences a room not through anger, but truth. Lorraine tried one last time to cut the tension with humor. "Well, maybe next time make it a little less honest," Ricky grinned. "Honesty's the only thing worth laughing about." The crowd erupted, half clapping, half gasping. The moment had turned, and Lorraine knew she was losing control of her own show. The producers whispered urgently in Lorraine's earpiece, telling her to change topics, but she couldn't let it go. "You say honesty," she pressed, "but maybe it's just arrogance, pretending cruelty is courage." Ricky laughed softly. "Maybe. Or maybe it's bravery, saying what everyone's thinking but too afraid to admit." Lorraine's tone sharpened. "So you enjoy upsetting people?" Ricky leaned forward, smirking. "No, I enjoy free speech. Upsetting people is just part of the job description." The audience broke into laughter and applause. Lorraine forced a smile, but her frustration was visible. "That's easy for you to say, Ricky. You don't have to clean up after your words." He shrugged. "If someone's hurt by a joke, maybe they need to ask why. That's where the healing starts." Lorraine blinked, thrown off. It wasn't the answer she expected, or wanted. The tension in the studio was now unmistakable. It wasn't a talk show anymore. It was a duel, live and unfiltered, and the viewers watching from home They were glued to every second, watching the moment when politeness finally met its match. Then it happened. Lorraine, visibly frustrated, looked off camera and gave a sharp signal. The producer's voice came through her earpiece. "We're cutting early." She turned back to Ricky with a forced smile. "Well, that's all the time we have, Ricky. Thank you for—" Ricky cut in, his tone playful but edged. "For what?" "Saying what everyone else is thinking." The crowd roared. Laughter, shock, disbelief all at once. Lorraine tried to maintain composure, but the frustration showed through her grin. "All right," she said tightly. "Thank you for joining us." Ricky stood, still smiling, and extended his hand. Lorraine hesitated, then shook it briefly. "Pleasure," he said dryly. "Honest conversations are rare these days." And just like that, he walked off the set, mid-broadcast. The camera panned awkwardly to Lorraine, who struggled to keep the show moving. The moment the broadcast ended, the internet erupted. Hashtags exploded, clips spread like wildfire, and millions debated what they'd just witnessed. Ricky hadn't been canceled. He'd become a conversation. And in a single unscripted moment, he turned Lorraine from a cozy morning show into a cultural battlefield. Within hours, social media lit up. Headlines screamed, "Ricky Gervais walks off Lorraine." Clips went viral across Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. Some called him brave, others called him cruel, but everyone was talking. Lorraine released a polite statement, calling the moment a creative difference, but the tension in her tone said more than words. Meanwhile, Ricky posted nothing. No apology, no defense, just silence, the kind that speaks louder than any tweet. Podcasts, news outlets, and comedians all weighed in. Some said he crossed the line, others claimed he drew one, between real comedy and performative outrage. By the next morning, his clip had over 50 million views. The audience wasn't just laughing anymore, they were thinking, and that's what Ricky wanted all along. Lorraine's show carried on, but the moment lingered like a shadow. People tuned in, hoping for another spark, another moment of raw truth. But deep down, everyone knew. Lightning like that doesn't strike twice. Weeks later, the buzz still hadn't died down. Ricky's moment on Lorraine had become a symbol, not just of free speech, but of the uncomfortable honesty most people avoid. In interviews, other comedians praised him for standing firm. "He didn't insult anyone," one said. "He just refused to lie." Lorraine, though, kept her distance from the subject. When asked, she smiled and changed the topic, but even she knew that one interview had reshaped her image. For Ricky, it wasn't about fame or outrage. It was about principle. He believed humor was humanity's last honest mirror, and he wasn't about to let anyone fog it up. Audiences began re-watching the clip, not just for entertainment, but for meaning. There was something undeniably magnetic about truth, even when it burned. In an industry built on PR smiles and safe words, Ricky Gervais had reminded the world of something raw, something real, that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can say is the truth. Moments like this remind us why truth matters, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it costs something. Ricky Gervais didn't storm off Lorraine out of anger. He walked out because the conversation had stopped being real. It became a performance, and he doesn't play that game. In an era where every word is filtered, polished, and approved, authenticity feels rebellious. That's why people couldn't look away, because deep down, we're all starving for something real. Ricky didn't insult. He exposed. He showed that humor, when rooted in honesty, can reveal more about us than any speech ever could. And maybe that's why his moment hit so hard. It wasn't about jokes. It was about courage. If you're tired of fake smiles, scripted interviews, and the illusion of balance, you're in the right place.